Hello, welcome back to Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Um, we may finish it today, we may not. When we left off, the man had killed the fish and he was preparing to bring him in. Now I must prepare the nooses and the rope to lash him alongside, he thought. Even if we were two and swamped her to load her and bail her out, this skiff would never hold him. I must prepare everything, then bring him in and lash him well, and step the mast and set sail for home. He started to pull the fish in to have him alongside so that he could pass a line through the gills and out his mouth and make his head fast alongside the bow. I want to see him, he thought, and to touch and to feel him. He is my fortune, he thought, but that is not why I wish to feel him. I think I felt his heart, he thought, when I pushed on the harpoon shaft the second time. Bring him in now and make him fast and get the noose around his tail and another around his middle to bind him to the skiff. Get to work, old man, he said. He took a very small drink of water. There is very much slave work to be done now that the fight is over. He looked up at the sky and then out to his fish. He looked at the sun carefully. It is not much more than noon, he thought, and the trade wind is rising. The lines all mean nothing now. The boy and I will splice them when we are home. Come on, fish, he said, but the fish did not come. Instead, he lay there wallowing now in the seas, and the old man pulled the skiff up onto him. When he was even with him and had the fish's head against the bow, he could not believe his size. But he untied the harpoon rope from its bit, passed it through the fish's gills and out his jaws, made a turn around his sword, then passed the rope through the other gill, made another turn around the bill and knotted the double rope and made it fast to the bit in the bow. He cut the rope then and went astern to noose the tail. The fish had turned silver from his original purple and silver. All the stripes showed the same pale violet color as his tail. They were wider than a man's hand, and his fingers spread, and the fish's eye looked as detached as the mirrors in a periscope or as a saint in a procession. It was the only way to kill him, the old man said. He was feeling better since the water, and he knew he would not go away, and his head would clear. He's over 1,500 pounds the way he is, he thought, maybe much more. If he dresses out 2/3 of that at 30 cents a pound, I need a pencil for that, he said. My head is not that clear, but I think the great DiMaggio would be proud of me today. I had no bone spurs, but the hands in my back hurt truly. I wonder what a bone spur is, he thought. Maybe we will have them without knowing of it. He made the fish fast to bow and stern and to the middle thwart. He was so big it was like lashing a much bigger skiff alongside. He cut a piece of line and tied the fish's lower jaw against his bill so his mouth would not open and they would sail as cleanly as possible. Then he stepped the mast, and with the stick that was his gaff and with his boom rigged, the patch sail drew, the boat began to move, and half lying in the stern, he sailed southwest. He did not need a compass to tell him where southwest was. He only needed the feel of the trade wind and the drawing of the sail. I better put a small line out with the spoon on it and try to get something to eat and drink for the moisture. But he could not find the spoon and his sardines were rotten. So he hooked a patch of yellow gulfweed with the gaff as they passed and shook it so that the small shrimps were in it, fell off and onto the planking of the skiff. There were more than a dozen of them, and they jumped and kicked like sand fleas. The old man pinched their heads off with his thumb and forefinger and ate them, chewing up the shells and the tails. They were very tiny, but he knew they were nourishing, and they tasted good. The old man still had 2 drinks of water in the bottle, and he used half of one after he had eaten the shrimps. The skiff was sailing well considering the handicaps, and he steered with the tiller under his arm. He could see the fish, and he only had to look at his hands and feel his back against the stern to know that this had truly happened and was not a dream. At one time, when he was feeling so badly toward the end, he had thought perhaps it was a dream. Then, when he had seen the fish come out of the water and hang motionless in the sky before he fell, he was sure there was some great strangeness, and he could not believe it. Then he could not see well, although now he saw as well as ever. Now he knew there was the fish, and his hands and his back were no dream. The hands will cure quickly, he thought. I bled them clean, and the salt water will heal them. The dark water of the true Gulf is the greatest healer that there is. And all I must do is keep the head clear. The hands have done their work, and we sail well. With his mouth shut and his tail straight up and down, we sail like brothers. Then his head started to become a little unclear, and he thought, is he bringing me in, or am I bringing him in? If I were towing him behind, there would be no question. Nor if the fish were in the skiff, with all dignity gone, there would be no question either. But they were sailing together, lashed side by side, and the old man thought, let him bring me in if it pleases him. I am only better than him through trickery, and he meant me no harm. They sailed well, and the old man soaked his hands in the salt water and tried to keep his head clear. There were high cumulus clouds and enough cirrus above them so that the old man knew the breeze would last all night. The old man looked at the fish constantly to make sure it was true. It was an hour before the first shark hit him. The shark was not an accident. He had come up from deep down in the water as a dark cloud of blood had settled and dispersed in the mile deep sea. He had come up so fast and absolutely without caution that he broke the surface of the blue water and was in the sun. Then he fell back into the sea and picked up the scent and started swimming on the course the skiff and the fish had taken. Sometimes he lost the scent, but he would pick it up again and have just a trace of it, and he swam fast and hard on the course. He was a very big mako shark, built to swim as fast as the fastest fish in the sea, and everything about him was beautiful except his jaws. He was black as blue. He was as blue as the swordfish's, and his belly was silver, and his hide was smooth and handsome. He was built as a swordfish, except for his huge jaws, which were tight shut now as he swam fast, just under the surface, with his high dorsal fin knifing through the water without wavering. Inside the closed double lip of his jaws, all of his 8 rows of teeth were slanted inwards. They were not ordinary pyramid-shaped teeth of most sharks. They were shaped like a man's fingers, and they were crisp like claws. They were nearly as long as the fingers of the old man, and they had razor-sharp cutting edges on both sides. This was a fish built to feed on all the fishes in the sea, that were so fast and strong and well armed that they had no other enemy. Now he speeded up as he smelled the fresher scent, and his blue dorsal fin cut the water. When the old man saw him coming, he knew that this was a shark that had no fear at all and would do exactly what he wished. He prepared the harpoon and made the rope fast while he watched the shark come on. The rope was short, as it lacked what he had cut away to lash the fish. The old man's head was clear and good now, and he was full of resolution, but he had little hope. It was too good to last, he thought. He took one look at the great fish as he watched the shark close in. It might as well have been a dream, he thought. I cannot keep him from hitting me, but I can get him. Dentuso, he thought. Bad luck to your mother. The shark closed fast astern, and when he hit the fish, the old man saw his mouth open and his strange eyes and the clicking chop of the teeth as he drove forward in the meat just above the tail. The shark's head was out of the water, and his back was coming out of the old man, and the old man could hear the noise of skin and flesh ripping on the big fish when he rammed the harpoon down into the shark's head at a spot where the line between his eyes intersected with the line that ran straight down from his nose. There were no such lines. There was only the heavy, sharp blue head and big eyes and the clicking, thrusting, all swallowing jaws. But that was the location of the brain, and the old man had hit it. He hit it, and with his blood-mushed hands, driving a good harpoon with all his strength, he hit it without hope, but with resolution and complete malignancy. The shark swung over, and the old man saw his eye was not alive, and then he swung over once again, wrapping himself in the 2 loops of rope. The old man knew that he was dead, but the shark would not accept it. Then on his back, with his tail lashing and his jaws clicking, the shark plowed over the water as a speedboat does. The water was white where his tail beat it, and 3/4 of his body was clear above the water when the rope came taut, shivered, and then snapped. The shark lay quietly for a while on the surface, and the old man watched him. Then he went down very slowly. He took about 40 pounds, the old man said aloud. He took my harpoon too, and all the rope, he thought. And now my fish bleeds again, and there will be others. He did not like to look at the fish any more since he had been mutilated. When the fish had been hit, it was as though he himself were hit. But I killed the shark that hit my fish, he thought, and he was the biggest Dentuso that I have ever seen. And God knows that I've seen big ones. It was too good to last, he thought. I wish it had been a dream now, and that I'd never hooked the fish and was alone in a bed on the newspapers. But man is not made for defeat, he said. A man can be destroyed, but not defeated. I am sorry that I killed the fish, though, he thought. Now the bad time is coming, and I do not have the harpoon. The Dentuso is cruel and able and strong and intelligent, but I was more intelligent than he was. Perhaps not, he thought. Perhaps I was only better armed. Don't think, old man, he said aloud. Sail on this course and take it when it comes. But I must think, he thought, because it is all I have, that and baseball. I wonder how the great DiMaggio would have liked the way I hit him in the brain. It was no great thing, he thought. Any man could do it. But do you think my hands were as great as the handicap as the bone spurs? I cannot know. I never had anything wrong with my heel except the time the stingray stung it when I stepped on him when swimming and paralyzed the lower leg and made the unbearable pain. Think about something cheerful, old man, he said. Every minute now you are closer to home. You sail lighter for the loss of the 40 pounds. He knew quite well the pattern of what could happen when he reached the inner part of the current, but there was nothing to be done now. Yes, there is, he said aloud. I can lash my knife to the butt of one of the oars. And so he did, that with the tiller under his arm and the sheet of the sail under his foot. Now, he said, I am still an old man, but I am not unarmed. The breeze was fresh now, and he sailed on well. He watched only the forward part of the fish, and some of the rope of his hope returned. It is silly not to hope, he thought. Besides, I believe it is a sin. Do not think about sin, he thought. There are enough problems now without sin. Also, I have no understanding of it. I have no understanding of it, and I am not sure that I believe in it. Perhaps it was a sin to kill the fish. I suppose it was, even though it did keep me alive and feed many people. But then everything is a sin. Do not think about sin. It is much too late for that, and there are people who are paid to do it. Let them think about it. You were born to be a fisherman, as the fish was born to be a fish. San Pedro was a fisherman, as was the father of the great DiMaggio. But he liked to think about all things that he was involved in, and since there was nothing to read and he did not have a radio, he thought much, and he kept on thinking about sin. You did not kill the fish only to keep alive and sell for food, he thought. You killed him for pride, and because you are a fisherman. You loved him when he was alive, and you've loved him after. If you love him, it is not a sin to kill him. Or is it more? You think too much, old man, he said aloud, but you enjoyed killing the dentuso, he thought. He lives on the fish as you do. He is not a scavenger, nor just a moving appetite as some sharks are. He is a beautiful and noble, and he knows no fear of anything. I killed him in self-defense, the old man said, and I killed him well. Besides, he thought, everything kills everything in some way. Fishing kills me exactly as it keeps me alive. The boy keeps me alive, he thought. I must not deceive myself too much. He leaned over the side and pulled loose a piece of the meat of the fish where the shark had cut him. He chewed it and noted its quality and its good taste. It was firm and juicy, like meat, but it was not red. There was no stringiness in it, and he knew that it would bring the highest price in the market. But there was no way to keep its scent out of the water, and the old man knew that a very bad time was coming. The breeze was steady. It had backed a little further into the northeast, and he knew that meant that it would not fall off. The old man looked ahead of him, but he could see no sails, nor could he see the hull nor the smoke of any ship. There were only the flying fish that went up from his bow, sailing away to either side, and the yellow patches of gulfweed. He could not even see a bird. He had sailed for 2 hours, resting in the stern and sometimes chewing a bit of the meat from the marlin, trying to rest and to be strong, when he saw the first of the two sharks. Aye, he said aloud. There is no translation for this word. Perhaps it is just a noise such a man might make involuntarily, feeling the nail go through his hands and into the wood. Galanos, he said aloud. He had seen the second fin coming up now behind the first, and had identified them as shovel-nosed sharks by the brown triangular fin and the sweeping movements of the tail. They had the scent and were excited, and in the stupidity of their great hunger, they were losing and finding the scent in their excitement, but they were closing all the time. The old man made the sheet fast and jammed the tiller. Then he took up the oar with the knife lashed to it. He lifted it as highly as he could because his hands rebelled at the pain. Then he opened and closed them on it lightly to loosen them. He closed them firmly so they would take the pain now and would not flinch, and watch the sharks come. He could see their wide, flattened, shovel-pointed heads now, and their white-tipped, wide pectoral fins. They were hateful sharks, bad-smelling scavengers as well as killers, and when they were hungry, they would bite at an oar or the rudder of a boat. It was these sharks that would cut the turtles' legs and flippers off when the turtles were asleep on the surface, and they would hit a man in the water if they were hungry, even if the man had no smell of fish blood, nor of fish slime on him. Aye, the old man said, Galanos. Come on, Galanos. And they came. But they did not come as the Mako had come. One turned and went off to sight under the skiff, and the old man could feel the skiff shake as he jerked and pulled on the fish. The other watched the old man with his slitted yellow eye, and then came in fast with his half circle of jaws wide to hit the fish where it had already been bitten. The line showed clearly on the top of his brown head and back where the brain joined the spinal cord, and the old man drove his knife on the oar into the juncture and withdrew it, and drove it again into the shark's yellow cat-like eyes. The shark let go of the fish and slid down, swallowing what he had taken as he died. The skiff was still shaking with the destruction of the other shark and what he was doing to the fish, and the old man let go the sheet so that the skiff would swing broadside and bring the shark out from under. When he saw the shark, he leaned over the side and punched at him. He hit only meat, and the hide was set hard, and he barely got the knife in. The blow hurt not only his hands, but his left shoulder too. But the shark came up fast with his head out, and the old man hit him squarely in the center of his flat-topped head as his nose came out of the water and lay against the fish. The old man withdrew the blade and punched the shark exactly in the same spot again. He still hung to the fish with his eyes hooked, and the old man stabbed him in the left eye. The shark still hung there. No, the old man said, and drove the blade between the vertebrae and the brain. It was an easy shot now, and he felt the cartilage sever. The old man reversed the oar and put the blade between the shark's jaws to open them. He twisted the blade, and as the shark slid loose, he said, "Go on, Galano. Slide down a mile deep. Go see your friend. Or maybe it's your mother." The old man wiped the blade of the knife and laid down the oar. Then he found the sheet and the sail filled, and he brought the skiff onto her course. They must have taken a quarter of him and of the best meat," he said aloud. "I wish it were a dream and that I'd never hooked him. I'm sorry about it, Fish. It makes everything wrong." He stopped, and he did not want to look at the fish now. Drained of blood and awash, he looked the color of the silver backing of a mirror, and his stripes still showed. "I shouldn't have gone so far out to fish," he said. "Neither for you nor for me. I'm sorry, Fish." Now, he said to himself, "Look to the lashing on the knife and see if it has been cut. Then get your hand in order, because there is still more to come." And tomorrow we will finish the story.